All right, guys, welcome to the next session. This is a deep dive into Nagios Analytics. And if you would please put your hands together for AlexisLe-Quoc.
Does this work? Yeah, I guess it does. Okay, my name is Alexi. I am been in development and operations for a while. I've been using Nagios since 2008, roughly, and I'm the co-founder of a company called Datadog, and I'll explain briefly what Datadog does. If you have any questions, actually interrupt me in the middle, because this is a kind of exploration into the data that we've collected, so yeah, feel free to interrupt at any point in time. So I would like to start with a little survey. And what I would like to do is for you to give yourself 5 seconds and think about the top 3 failed checks in your Nagios infrastructure. So just think for 5 seconds. Okay. So now who has a very clear idea of what they are? Okay. So who doesn't have a clue? I can raise my hand, but okay. So it's a little bit of a trick question that I asked you, because I didn't really say, according to how you rank, what's the top one and what's the bottom one. So it could be anything from the top 3 that I responded to last week. It could be the last 3 that woke me up, and these usually one tends to remember them. It could be the ones that I responded, 5 weeks ago, and that have been alerting and pinging me for the past, for 3 weeks in a row. It could be the top failed checks could be defined as, the one that most of my team has responded at least once, and so on and so forth. Or it could be the ones that actually impact the business the most. So there's a number of definition for the top 3 failed checks. You can pick whatever you want. The one thing, though, that I'd like to point out is, if you think about when I ask you to think for 5 seconds, if you step back and say, all right, so let's say I know what they are, what were really the criteria that drove me to pick those top 3? Well, I can speak at least for myself. The ones that I remember the most is the ones that wake me up relatively recently. So I think Monday at 5 a.m. I got a call from PagerDuty, so I remember that one very well. The one that responded last week, it's a little bit more fuzzy. If I were to rank, if you give me all the checks and I were to rank them by the ones, tell me the ones that I responded to last week, I might remember, but maybe not. The one that I responded to, more than a week ago, forget it, I forget. Maybe what's more of a problem is that the checks that actually ping the entire team the most often, I don't really know what they are. And even maybe more worrisome is the checks that truly impact the business. I couldn't really tell you which are the top 3. And so, what we might, the little conclusion that I want to draw from this is that if we use our memory to prioritize remediation, if we do that exercise, basically even as a team, to decide, well, okay, so we have all these Nagios checks that have Nagios alerts. Which one should we attack first? If we use just memory and our brains, if you will, the results are likely to be really skewed. So I think at best, when you do that, we say, all right, this week let's tackle the number of checks that have alerted, and let's resolve the problem. I think at best you find local optimums. So that might work for this week. You'll solve your top 3 checks so that they don't alert next week, and maybe next week it's going to be maybe the same, so you have a longer nights, more quiet, without being woken up, or maybe not. Maybe what you're doing is really brown in motion, meaning that you fix things, other things break, you fix them, the first thing breaks again, so you have this kind of pattern of going all over the map without a strong direction. And you could argue that it's manageable. I think the problem is that as you grow your infrastructure, there's no, if you just use memory and kind of local response, really reaction, there's no guarantee that as the infrastructure grows, you're going to converge to a state where you can sleep entire nights. So that's basically what drew me, this little introduction, what drew me to think about Nagios Analytics. How can we get, which data can we get, what questions can we ask of the data to drive our efforts to say, okay, this week we're going to fix these 3 issues, and that's because these are the most, maybe the most important according to criteria, and the decisions that we make there, and this is what we're going to attack, are based on hard data, not necessarily on what I remember of the last week or what woke me up, and because my wife or my girlfriend is mad at me, and these are the ones we got to fix. So that's kind of the context of this little presentation. Any questions so far? Does that make sense? All right, okay, so let me move on. So just a few slides about what Datadog does. It's important in the sense that it'll explain how we get the data. So what we do is we're a SaaS service that collects performance metrics, Nagios traffic, and a bunch of other stuff. So it all goes to one place, and then basically we give you back real-time graphs and analytics. So that's that's the gist of it. Now the important thing is that we do that because we're SaaS. We're running a SaaS service. We do that for a number of different companies. And so that lets us also not only tell you this is how for instance, these are your Nagios analytics, but also this is how you compare, or this is across similar customers, the kind of analytics that we're seeing. So very briefly, what we do is we collect. So Nagios is here. There's a number of other which you might know. You connect all that to Datadog, so it starts sending data, and then we basically give you analytics that look like kind of real time as with a little timeline and what's happening. Who's being pinged, who's responding to stuff, and it extends beyond Nagios. But in this case, of course, I want to focus on Nagios. Another way to do real-time analytics is that you can, since we get also performance metrics, we can tie together, like error spikes and then number of events that happen. So that's the general gist of it. Is once you aggregate everything into one place, you're able to make some interesting correlation between different sources. So, but I'm not here to give you an hour pitch on the company. Rather, I want to focus on Nagios traffic. So, I isolated that. So we basically connect to, we have a little piece of software that digests the Nagios logs, the current Nagios logs in real time, sends that to us, and then we do the real-time presentation, and we also crunch numbers in the background to produce our analytics, if you will. So from observation, from what we're seeing, and I'm going to focus on one particular account that we have. Nagios is a relative chatty source, so we're seeing a fairly constant stream of traffic. So one example is this is one of our environments. So it's a relatively small environment. It's 25 machines, 440 checks, nothing outlandish. So that simple environment generates about 13,000 Nagios events over the past per week, if you will. And then you can see that there's a kind of mix of things going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. There's the split between soft alert or soft or hard alert state, and recoveries is kind of split. So it's a lot of stuff that's happening. It's constant stream. Now, if I filter down by just the notifications, so things that sent us for this account actually pinged somebody, it's a lot fewer. Luckily, it's about 86 over the past week. Now, of course, what's interesting, and really what makes Nagios Analytics interesting is there's a